Welcome to the Escape and Empower podcast. Escape from the corporate rat race to empowered franchise ownership. Are you ready to take control of your destiny, follow your dreams, and live life on your own terms? Join our hosts, Dave and Pete, for insights on how to break free from the corporate grind, ditch the 9-to-5, and step into empowered franchise ownership.
My name is Dave Greenberg, and welcome to the Escape and Empower podcast with my co-host, Pete Gilfillan.
Good morning, David.
How you doing, Pete?
Yeah, good. Again, my name is Pete Gilfillan. I'm a proud corporate escapee. We'll talk about that today a little bit. And obviously the best-selling author of the book, Hire Yourself. What are we going to talk about today, David?
Pete, it was a good football game last night. I'm going to not say who won or who didn't win, but I thought the right team won last night. But, the real question of the day is investing in a business during economic recession. Not that we're in an economic recession. You can be the judge of whether it's good or bad. But the question I came to work with this morning is an economic downturn, is it the right time to invest? And I know you faced this when you were jumping into your franchise, when you escaped the corporate gig.
Certainly, and it's a great question. And it's a question that a lot of candidates ask, right? It looks like we're going to go into a recession. Should I invest in a franchise? Should I invest in a business right now? And I lived that back when I was looking for a franchise business to invest in. I went through about 6 months of due diligence and I found the perfect franchise. It was a junk removal franchise, believe it or not. And I decided, it was called Junk King. I decided that I was going to buy the rights to 3 states, all the territories, which was a huge investment, hundreds of thousands of dollars just for the territory. And I'm supposed to get this check for hundreds of thousands of dollars, sign my franchise agreement, and fly my check and my agreement out to the Bay Area for training, right? 2 days before I'm supposed to go out there and with my big check, I start freaking out. Yeah. Like I'm going, this is a lot of money for us. It's a big part of our savings. And I got to tell you, I'm a sole provider for a family of 6, right? So if this thing doesn't work out, so I'm freaking out. I got all kinds of fear. So I call my mentor. I got a great mentor. His name is Wes. And I called Wes and I said, Wes, I am freaking out. I got to put in this big investment into this business. If this thing doesn't work out, I am screwed. And he goes, Pete, let me ask you a couple questions. He goes, first, were you successful as a corporate executive? I said, oh, absolutely. I ran a $5 billion sales marketing organization for Ford, Terex, I ran Americas, ran global sales production planning. Yeah, I was successful. He goes, well, what would make you think you wouldn't be successful running a small franchise business? I go, fine. But I said, Wes, the economy, it just, I just don't know. It might not be the right time to invest in a business. And he goes, well, Pete, do you invest in the stock market? I said, absolutely. He goes, now, do you time your investments or you just get in and go? I said, oh, no. I just get in and go. You can't time the stock market. He goes, Pete, let me tell you this. You know what? The economy is just like the stock market. It's going to go up and down, and you can't time when you get in. You just got to get in business and go. That conversation, that advice gave me the courage to fly out there, hand off my check, and I'll never have to work for anybody again in my life. But I got past that fear.
Yeah, fear can be crippling. I'm dealing with some candidates right now that think a W-2 is safer in this environment than actually taking their money and investing in with their skill set that you said. Like, okay, you're going to hand your fear over to someone else, whatever corporate junkie or HR department's going to be in charge of you, or you're going to be in charge of it yourself.
Yep.
So which is right and which is wrong. So,
I totally. Yeah, when we come into tough times, right? You're renting your income, and they can take your income away. When you're a business owner, nobody can take away your income from it. It's yours.
I want to get back to the economic right time to invest, but I was just thinking about fear, and I remember during the pandemic, I thought about this and wrote a blog about it. It's fear that you can control, and when you're an entrepreneur, versus fear that you can't control when you're a corporate guy or gal. Or person, whatever. Yeah. So, it was that fear and that sense of control that really I've learned to appreciate as an entrepreneur, right? If there's something wrong or something I'm fearful with, we'll go fix it. It's not up to anyone else except for the person you see in the mirror.
Yeah, absolutely. It's 100% accountability. It's your business and you're responsible. And I always tell people, when they're worried about stuff that's out of their control, that's really fear is false evidence appearing real, right? And you just got to, you have to work through that fear. And, as we go back to this idea of investing in a time where maybe we're in an economic slow period, there are a lot of big companies that started during economic downturns. I mean, think of like Google, IBM, Disney, Microsoft. I mean, there are a lot of big companies that started during very tough economic times.
Uber. Was it Uber one of them?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, I was speaking to a potential candidate, and they actually exchanged stock for fees when Uber was getting started. And that's the best thing I ever did. I didn't need the cash, and they didn't want to spend the cash, and I just got stock. And wow, it really changed the course of my life, and it was a really cool thing. You're right. Airbnb, I think, was another one that started in downtime. So,
Yep.
Junk is junk, right? One man's junk is another man's treasure, right? Something like that. So,
Absolutely.
what are the other reasons you thought about? What makes sense to dive into it?
Well, when we think about when we're enduring tough economic times, it for lack of better terms, it thins out the herd. It thins out the competition, right? So it's just by the nature of it, the weak go away and the strong make it, right? So I think there's a real advantage to going into a market where if you perform, if you work hard and build that business, it's maybe a little bit easier path when you have less competition.
Right. What about labor resources? Do you think, did you find when you went into it in the recession that labor was easier to find or?
Yeah, I mean, we've learned that now, right? When we had the economy is flying, you couldn't get people. And during slow times, it's just a little bit easier to get people, right?
Right.
People are a little less picky about what they take. They just have to provide for their families. And so you can, for lack of better terms, upgrade your team too, get those A players. So not only can you find employees, but you can get some really good, talented ones if you're looking carefully.
Old supply and demand, you just roll through all the things that input into the success of your franchise. One that I ran into in my bricks and mortar, and I wasn't in an economic recession, but I was in the land of plenty of real estate. So landlords were looking to bring on tenants, because there was some vacancies back in 13 and 14 up to 16. And so we had the opportunity to negotiate some really good terms and get some, really good tenant improvement dollars.
Well, certainly. And you think about coming out of the pandemic, right? The real estate opportunities that happened then, right? You had open facilities and landlords need to get those sites filled. And so there are opportunities when we have tough times for real estate, certainly getting good terms for your lease. What else?
You talk about weaker competition, right? Not everyone's there to weather the storm. And, you got to be capitalized, right? If you're not capitalizing life or if you're not capitalizing business, things start falling short and you start not being as productive and maximizing what you can produce. What about the marketing side? Are there any advantages there, do you think?
Well, sure. There's less noise. You can probably, first, there's just probably less advertising out there or marketing. But more importantly is that you can probably get better rates, right? Just because it's a down cycle in regards to advertising and promotion. And so you can get some good opportunities to put a little bit more presence in the marketplace, to build a stronger brand quickly when you've got buying advantages when it comes to marketing.
We have a wonderful portfolio of 200 or so franchisors that we have to work with to find the right fit for our candidates. What are your thoughts on the type of franchise that you would focus on going into recession?
When we talk about recessions, I think of need-based businesses. I think of things like recession-resistant restoration businesses, right? Irregardless of the economy, bottom line is I have to have the bad stuff out of my house, right? So I focus on the needs or health and wellness, right? The bottom line is during good times, bad times, people want to feel good and they want to look good. And so you're going to see that. And certainly we think about kids, irregardless of what happens. You know this with your kids. My kids, right? During tough economic times, they're still going to participate in soccer. They're going to get their skills training. They're going to get whatever they need or the daycare or preschool or martial arts classes, whatever it is. Bottom line is those things that people need are great businesses when we go into slow time.
Nice. When you jumped into the junk business, do you remember how old your kids were? I mean, you got a family of 6, so
Yeah, I sure do. I was in the corporate world and they knew me as a corporate dad that was always gone. And I decided to jump off that and spend some time looking for the business. And I finally found the business and my kids were young. They were 5 to 11 years old. And that was a lot of fun because I wanted to expose them to being entrepreneurs and not necessarily work in my business, although I would have appreciated the free labor. The idea would be is that, teach them about business because they're growing up in a gig economy. Our kids are going to have to create their own opportunities. And so I exposed them to being an entrepreneur at a very early age. And that's really reflected as they've grown older. You can sense that they know kind of the feel for it. And I believe all my kids will eventually have their own businesses.
that's fantastic. And I love what Wes said to your mentor. Think about how successful you've been in the W-2 corporate world. Think about the skill set that you produce, and think about how you can put that to work and go drive your success.
And as we think about in tough times, right, that separates the weak from the strong, right? I mean, just bottom line is the strong come out to play and they make it happen, whatever is going on with the economy, whether it's a recession, it's a war, or whatever it may be. Bottom line is that they're going to do that. They're going to kind of, for lack of better terms, outperform the weaker competitors. And I'm all about that, right? It's just put your head down, burn the boats, burn the bridges, go forward. You're going to be successful with whatever you do.
How many conversations have we had with undercapitalized dealers saying when times get tough, you're not going to be able to put the money into the trade. You're not going to be able to be competitive on your deals.
Yeah, we've talked about that a lot, you and I, about this idea that you got to have enough capital. You can never have too much capital. And there's a phrase somebody said, is when you want capital, you can't get it. When you don't need capital, there's plenty of it available. So we always have enough capital reserves to make sure that we can weather any storm or stay in a position where we can stay aggressive in building and growing our business. Right. Last thing we want to do is be handcuffed to that. And we certainly saw that with car dealers, but you see it with all kinds of businesses, right? If you go into it undercapitalized, you're handcuffing yourself.
Well, Pete, I think that's a great story that you had about going into an economic recession and looking at it through not rose-colored glasses, but just as an opportunity and where the advantages are. So, cheers to you. Great job. And,
and I think about when there's never a perfect time, right? That's just the way it works. And so whether the economy's up or it's down, it doesn't make any difference. What you need to do is to put yourself in a position where you're protected, so that you have some stuff going on, you diversify your assets, your income, whatever that may be. You want to put yourself in a position where you're not renting your income. You have something that you're in control. We talked about that earlier, right? Control the fear, where when you're in charge, you can handle that. When somebody else is in control of your life, that can be fearful.
I love renting income. I've often said you're exchanging time for money. It's kind of the same thing in a W-2 world, but now you get the opportunity to exchange time for building wealth and doing something for yourself to give them the freedom and independence that comes along with owning your own business and being an entrepreneur. Well, Pete, I think that was a great topic to bring to the podcast today. I hope the viewers enjoyed it.
Yeah, and I hope that if they want to learn more, they can certainly go to your website, the Empowered Franchisee, or my website, Hire Yourself, and start a chat. We're here to help people that are thinking about investing in a business. They don't know how to find that right franchise. Our job is to help people learn about what they're looking for, what they want to accomplish in the business, and connect with them with great franchises, and then coach them all the way through. So we're a great resource. If you're in a position where you want to learn more, I encourage you to contact either David or I. It doesn't make any difference. He's a little bit better looking. I got maybe a better voice. My wife
got more hair, Pete. That's all. I haven't lost it all yet.
My wife says that I don't have a TV face. She says I have a radio voice. I don't know what that means, but maybe that's the way we should end our conversation today.
No, I got a better way to end it. Pete, remember this. They don't put a marble top on a cheap table.
Right. Great chatting
All
with you
right,
today.
thanks, Pete.
Thanks for tuning in to the Escape and Empower podcast. We hope today's discussion has inspired you to consider franchise ownership as a path to living life on your own terms. Start your journey towards financial freedom and flexibility. Connect with Dave at empoweredfranchisee.com or Pete at hireyourself.com. Until next time.